Toronto Raptors free agency madness continues as Masai Ujiri has signed Jalen McDaniels using our biannual exception to a contract that right now looks like a steal for the Toronto Raptors. So we'll break down who Jalen McDaniels is, what impact he'll be able to provide for the squad, and how it will sort of impact our current roster, as McDaniels definitely comes in and provides a very similar skill set to a lot of guys on this Raptors team. So lots of stuff to break down. Let's jump straight into this report. It's basically Jalen McDaniels has signed a 2-year, $9.3 million contract with the Toronto Raptors. And looking at this contract, first, I want to say I saw Jaden McDaniels. Don't get him confused with the guy in Minnesota who is a very valuable asset to that team. Minnesota has shot down a lot of trade requests for him. Does basically what Jalen McDaniels does to a higher level, but that's not to disparage Jalen because he has carved out a very solid niche in his career and is coming off the best season of his NBA career. As he averaged mostly for the Charlotte Hornets last season 9.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1.6 assists. He was an unrestricted free agent, shot 33% from the three-point line and 46% from the field. He's a player that can slash to the rim. He does get knocked off his spot occasionally. I want to compare it a little bit to maybe a Terrence Ross at the rim. He can sort of get pushed off. Not as bad as T. Ross, but is athletic, can finish over top of people, can get to the rim with his explosiveness, but when there are players underneath the basket, can get pushed off. So he's a slasher in a certain sense, but isn't going to be overpowering people or having the body control to finish in the trees perfectly. But he's a strong enough three-point shooter where he'll knock down his set shots. And the major value he provides is he's just like a very perfect complementary role player, right? He's going to knock down his open shots. He can drive it. He can have it. He has a decent handle. He's not someone that's going to be coming out like DeMarre Carroll, dribbling the ball off his foot every single time, right? He's pretty effective on the offensive end. He swings the ball. He's not a ball hawk, not just a shot chucker, but on the defensive end, he provides a serious impact. He's usually matching up with the best player on the other team. You look at his lineup data, he's matching up with guys that are usually the number 1, number 2 option on the other squad, at least on the wing and stuff. So, Jalen McDaniels is going to come in here, definitely provide a lot on the defense, provide a lot of energy. I know a lot of people are sick of the 6'9" vision and stuff, but, obviously our star guys, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, they all play this sort of position. And now the fact that we brought back Thaddeus Young, we picked up his option, which shocked a lot of people. We still have Chris Boucher, we still have Precious Achiuwa. I've seen some people criticize this signing, but at its current price, regardless of what it is, this is not an Isaac Bonga coming in sort of selection where it's an unproven dude, or even like an Ochai Brissett or Yuta Watanabe, who had success moving on from the Toronto Raptors but didn't thrive here. Jalen McDaniels is a dude that is a legit NBA player. 10 points per game last season. He can come into a rotation and play effectively on the basketball court. I've seen a lot of Sixers fans, Hornets fans, disappointed when he was dealt. So he's highly regarded amongst his previous teams. Now, the Sixers apparently didn't utilize him enough. Once they acquired from him, they traded a pretty solid haul for him, a couple second-round picks, one of them being early. I think it was the 37th pick in last year's NBA draft, along with Matisse Thybulle in order to pick him up. So just at this year's trade deadline, he was netting Matisse Thybulle in 2 seconds and, not seconds in the 50s, pretty high-level seconds. That's a pretty solid return for a guy that the Toronto Raptors just picked up for free and only paying him about $4.6 million per season. So shout out to Jalen McDaniels. I think that contract for him is a steal given everything he provides out there on the court, floor spacing, defense, and everything we want out of a role player for this team. But the question now comes in because the Raptors sort of moved away from the complete all-wings sort of roster. And now we did lose a point guard, right? So you can kind of have PGs, you have wings, and you have your centers, right? Obviously, there's deeper positions and stuff, but the Raptors have loaded up on those wings areas and bringing in another guy. Some people have criticized Masai Ujiri for doing this, even though it's a cheap contract and he's a proven NBA player. But I see where they're coming from because, as I mentioned, Scotty, OG, Pascal, Precious, Boucher, and now Thaddeus Young all provide similar value to this team. So will he be able to get to play? Because we saw Nick Nurse bury a lot of these dudes on the bench. I mean, Thaddeus Young didn't play in the second half of the season. Boucher was benched at times over the course of the year. Precious Achiuwa, despite being an up-and-coming young prospect, balled out in the playoffs last year. Dealt with some injuries last season. There were moments where he was getting coach's decision DNPs out there on the court. right? We have a lot of guys, and you can't blame Nick Nurse when you're loaded with that roster, but obviously we wanted him to develop a little bit more. But Jalen McDaniels, is he just going to be a dude that we bring in and has no impact or anything like that? I don't think that will be the case, because I don't think the Toronto Raptors are done with their moves this offseason. We do have obviously, for people that didn't see, we broke down in recent videos, Thaddeus Young was projected to be an unrestricted free agent this summer because, again, he was getting DNP coaches' decisions to close out last season, and he's owed $8 million per year. So, to pay a guy $8 million and not play him at all, basically, it doesn't really make sense. So, I'd imagine the Raptors are keeping him around to sort of facilitate some sort of trade. You know, it was confirmed he's picked up. It's confirmed he's going to get that $8 million going into next season. So, given the fact that we brought in Jalen McDaniels, given the fact that we still have all these core guys on our roster, you know, the big potential trade partner for Pascal Siakam is out of the running now that Damian Lillard is on the market. And while the Raptors could make a run for Damian Lillard, I don't think they do it with Pascal Siakam. And there's no chance of getting Scoot Henderson or Shaedon Sharpe or any of these guys for Siakam now that Damian Lillard is asking out. They just gave Jeremy Grant a ridiculous extension. So Siakam staying, OG, we'll see what happens on him. I actually have a video recorded that will drop tomorrow morning probably regarding OG Anunoby. But given the fact that we're building around players in the similar position of Jalen McDaniels, I'd imagine this signing sort of indicates that Precious, maybe not Precious, but Chris Boucher, especially Thaddeus Young, could be two guys that are potentially on the trade market this offseason. And there have been a lot of moves sort of going down across the NBA, these minor trades with role players going around, especially with teams trying to get under the cap. I could see Masai Ujiri sort of packaging a few assets together to try to get us another legit guard on this team. Now, again, we brought in Dennis Schroeder. We have Jeff Doughton Jr. on this team. Marquise Noel is a guy that's on a two-way. I don't think they're factoring in, at least for his rookie season, him having a major impact on the squad. We definitely need more guard depth, and we have a lot of forward depth. And if we're bringing in Jalen McDaniels, again, he's a 3-4 kind of hybrid combo forward. I'd imagine more moves are potentially going to happen. The Raptors are going to go in the direction of, you know, giving Jalen McDaniels an actual role, giving him an actual option, because, you know, the Sixers didn't really utilize him that effectively, but during his tenure with the Sixers, you just look at his stats splits, shot close to 40% from the three-point line when he had better teammates around him, which makes sense. You're on the Charlotte Hornets, especially with LaMelo Ball injured, who's your point guard, who's supposed to be facilitating. I mean, if it's just Terry Rozier and a bunch of scrubs sort of trying to set you up, then your shooting percentages are going to be down a little bit. So, you know, even though his points per game went down, he knocked down more shots for Philadelphia. I think he could come in and be a solid 3-and-D guy. We're moving back to that developing sort of philosophy, you know, the ball movement philosophy with Darko Rajakovic. So it's going to be interesting to see what impact he can have. But at the $4 million price, it's a steal to bring in a legitimate 3-and-D NBA role player. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These guys, I thought even before he was even associated with the Toronto Raptors, just looking at the free agent list, I just pictured Jalen McDaniels getting thrown to a team for $10 to $11 million per year. And I might be overestimating his value. I guess I am, because I'm sure he would have taken it if I was out there on the market. But guys like Bruce Brown just signed over $20 million per year contract. So Jalen McDaniels coming in, you know, being able to provide an impact to this team, to this Raptors squad, is a huge W. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think it was a steal to bring in Jalen McDaniels at this price? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think the Toronto Raptors should do as the free agency goes along. Anyways, you guys are the best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.